Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at what's going and doing a win over in Japan. We have a little snapshot of the Japanese metagame we need to take a little bit of a look at today. And to be kind of blunt, Eevee Heroes is out now, and the INTELEON Gengar VMAX decks are out now. And things have changed a lot. Introducing that mini set and those two high-class decks to the metagame in Japan has had a huge impact on what is actually good and what is actually seen play, and that is fun. Like, for somebody that covers the game and talks about the game a lot, seeing how much things are changing up in such a short period of time, kind of awesome. Do remember this is a snapshot of a few Japanese tournaments. It's very early after these releases, etc. So yes, things are subject to change. This is not supposed to be an absolute cast iron guarantee of exactly the metagame moving forward. It is supposed to be a snapshot which is showing the kind of things which are good and winning at the moment. So here is the little graphic that was tweeted out by Funamushi Outen over on Twitter. And there are a couple things that should stand out to you pretty gosh darned quickly. The first thing there, Gengar Umbreon's the new best deck in format. Now, I'm not going to spend too long talking about this because we did take a look at this the other day, but clearly Gengar VMAX, along with Umbreon VMAX, just became the best deck. Now, there are counter-arguments all over the place here. Clearly, Gengar is a Pokemon V that is weak to fighting, or a Pokemon V Max as well, I should say. And there is an obvious counter here in terms of Galarian Zapdos. You would think that Galarian Zapdos being out and being legal would mean that this couldn't be any good. But then again, you would have said that pre-Eevee Heroes as a reason why Eternatus wouldn't be good. And as it stands, pre-Eevee Heroes, Eternatus was still one of the best decks in the format. Post-Eevee Heroes, it looks like Gengar is the best deck in the format. Maybe Galarian Zapdos is going to come and change that in the future. I don't know. All I can tell you right now is, as it stands at the moment, Zapdos is not stopping this. Now, the deck is basically built around Gengar VMAX, that for 2 energy does 60 damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon V and GX in play. Again, it sounds like it'd be easy to play around, but as it turns out at the moment, that is not what is happening. And then you got Umbreon that's got the same ability as Lycanroc. Even decks that are not quote-unquote Umbreon decks, you're going to see a lot of them playing this because that ability to Gust is too gosh darned good. The other one that really jumps out, and I need to give a shout out to the lovely Antoine Boulet here, who requested I apologise to LEafeon. Because if we have a look here, we've got a second place and a top 4 for LEafeon. That does not put LEafeon in the pantheon of all-time greats. It doesn't really put it as the best deck moving forward, not at this early stage. But what it absolutely does do is show us that LEafeon is a legitimate contending deck, and I have not been very nice to LEafeon so far. I have not been terribly complimentary. I have told you I didn't think LEafeon VMAX was a very good deck. Well, I'm not terribly upset to say it looks like I'm wrong about this. Incidentally, anytime I say a deck isn't good and I'm proven wrong and it turns out to be good, I'm not upset about that. I think LEafeon VMAX looks fun. It looks at this early stage like I was wrong about how good LEafeon was going to be. I am totally okay with this. Now, LEafeon V, I'm a huge fan of. It's got an ability that lets you search your deck for a grass energy and attach it. It ends your turn, but that's still pretty gosh darned amazing. The V Max, the main thing we're looking at here is 2 energy, 60 damage for each colorless energy in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost, which is clearly a very, very good attack if they've got a high retreat. And obviously you'll use Galar Mine here to increase their retreat cost by 2 and kind of start at 120 and go from there. But high HP, decent damage, energy acceleration. I probably will in the not too distant future show you a winning LEafeon deck, but it seems like it's pretty gosh darn good. Now, one of the lists there just has the Dene. It's kind of a speed-consistent LEafeon deck, we would imagine. The other one is showing the new INTELEON. Now, this is the Stage 2 INTELEON that has the same ability as the old Decidueye GX. You can drop 2 damage counters once during your turn. Basically, this INTELEON is popping up everywhere. I am seeing this in so many different decks over in Japan. I mean, if we go back to the graphic for a moment, we can see that it is also popping up with Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX and INTELEON, and that's just in this little graphic here. We have seen it in other decks as well. That INTELEON is legit. There is a very good reason it's the most sought after of the pre-release promos from Chilling Reign. So it turns out the LEafeon then is legit and is an absolute player. The other thing we see here really is the proper rise of Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. Now, Rapid Strike Urshifu has been good since Battle Styles dropped. But when we looked at this before, with the advent of Sword and Shield 6 in Japan, Urshifu was not quite looking as good as some of the other decks. It was really good when Battle Styles dropped, Sword and Shield 5, but when Sword and Shield 6 dropped in Japan, this seemed to take a little bit of a step back. That does not seem to be the case here, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we can see that of the 4 tournaments we are profiling here, 2 of them were won by Rapid Strike Urshifu. Now, it might not be a coincidence that 2 of the others... Sorry, no, 5 tournaments. 2 of the others were won by Gengar, who is weak to fighting, and that obviously gives a really good advantage. But you've got this attack that will do 120 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. So any setting up your opponent wants to do, any weaker Pokemon, you can just absolutely take advantage of that using your Rapid Strike Urshifu here, which is kind of redonkulous. Not to mention the fact that you are hitting weakness on stuff like Crobat, so you can get or Dedenne, so you can get a KO on one of those for 2 prizes if it's in the active, while hitting 120 to the bench and hopefully getting a 3rd KO. Efficiency is really the name of the game here when it comes to Urshifu. And you're also hitting weakness. I mean, you know, the 2 tournaments that weren't won by Urshifu, 2 of them were won by Gengar, and another one had a 2nd place from Gengar. Now, what is interesting here, we do see Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX coming in, but only with 1 win and no other real representation, because it sits in an awkward place. On the one hand, you're hitting weakness against Rapid Strike Urshifu. That's clearly a wonderful, wonderful thing. But on the other hand, you're being hit for weakness by Gengar and Umbreon. And that is clearly a very, very bad thing. So, the weakness really is coming in strong here, both in terms of what you're hitting and what your opponent is hitting. But you've still got that ability that accelerates Psychic Energy while drawing cards. And you've still got that attack, which will, if you get enough Psychic Energy on the field, really start running through basically anything. It's clearly still a very good deck. But while Gengar is big in the format, that is clearly going to struggle. Having said that, it did beat Gengar in the final of the only tournament where it repped, so that is something we really need to bear in mind. There are 2 other new decks that really do deserve having a bit of a chat about here, one of which is INTELEON VMAX. Now this one's a little bit weird. We saw INTELEON VMAX on its own take a top 4, then we saw it take a top 4 with the other INTELEON VMAX, and we saw it take a 2nd place with Shadow Rider Calyrex, although all 3 versions did play the non-VMAX INTELEON. Now, what we basically got here, the new INTELEON VMAX, is clearly a very good deck. I think that is fair to say. I think we can at this stage turn around and go, no, you know what, that one's really good. It's got an ability that lets you discard a water energy from your hand to put 2 damage counters on 2 of your opponent's bench. Clearly a wonderful, wonderful combo here with the non-VMAX INTELEON. And then 2 energy, 140 damage as long as you put 1 back into your hand, which you're clearly going to. And 140 doesn't seem terribly exciting, and in a way it's not. but you're also dropping a lot of extra damage counters with the other INTELEON, so you'll probably be alright here. Now, like I've said, this does sometimes tend to be comboed with the other INTELEON VMAX, the one that we got right back in Rebel Clash. And remember, this is the one that for free energy does 160 to the active and 60 to one of your opponent's bench, which is more expensive, but it's clearly a very, very nice option here in terms of being able to just start picking off the bench while also doing damage to the active. And then Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX comes in here as well. That is a new one we're just about to get in Chilling Reign. 2 energy, and you discard up to 2 water energy from this Pokemon and you want to. Okay, any energy, but it'll be water. And then you're doing 250 for 2 energy. That's clearly, again, a very efficient attack. When you combine it with the extra damage counters, it's kind of nuts. No one seems quite sure how to build this deck, but this water deck built around INTELEON / Ice Rider, I mean, if you take them all as one kind of archetype, we got a 2nd place and 3 other top 4s. That seems like something we need to pay attention to. And the last new deck I think we really need to start paying attention to is Sylveon VMAX. You'll notice we did get a top 4 finish here for Sylveon VMAX with Rapid Strike Urshifu. Remember, Sylveon itself is a Rapid Strike Pokemon. And okay, we're talking 1 top 4 in 5 tournaments. That does not exactly scream new best deck in the format. Actually, there is one more. We'll take a look at that in a moment. But what we do have here is a Pokemon that I think we can at least be starting to get mildly excited about. 3 colorless energy, 70 damage. 30 more for each type of Pokemon on your bench. We've already talked about how good Rapid Strike Urshifu is, being able to hit for 120 to 2 different Pokemon. And if you can really fill up your bench with different kinds of Rapid Strike Pokemon, and there are many of them out there, then Sylveon becomes a pretty gosh darn nice attacker as well. And I suppose if we're mentioning the 1 top 4 from Sylveon, we should also mention the 1 top 4 from Glaceon. Again, it would be rude if we only mentioned one of them. Glaceon's got that rather redonkulous ability, same as Zamazenta, which stops you being damaged by Pokemon VMAXs. And then free energy, 150, 30 to one of your opponent's bench. I mean, the theory here, right, that attack isn't particularly good, and I don't think anyone's going to pretend it is a particularly good attack. But it is very interesting to note that if we go back to the graphic here, the winners of all 4 tournaments were VMAX decks. If we look at the second places, we've got an ADP and a Blacephalon, but there are 3 VMAX decks. And then if we look at the rest of the top 4s, the only non-VMAX deck there is another ADP. VMAXs are huge in Japan right now. Like I say, we've got the top 4 from 5 tournaments. We've got 20 different decks there. And of those 20 different decks, 3 of them were not built around VMAXs. So you've got to have an answer to something like Glaceon, or Glaceon can absolutely run through you. That's how Glaceon ends up in the top 4. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Like I say, we're early, and this is only 5 tournaments. Let's not read too much into it. But I do think we can look at this and go, Gengar is clearly a powerhouse, and that new INTELEON is clearly legit, though maybe not on its own. Maybe it has to be paired with other stuff. LEafeon certainly seems like the best of the evolutions after Umbreon. And Sylveon and Glaceon, like I say, 1 top cut, let's not overreact. But it seems like 4 of those VMAXs, and interestingly enough, we're talking about the 4 from Eevee Heroes, not the 4 from that extra VMAX pack, do seem like they are legit and do need to be thought about. So that's what's going on over in Japan at the moment. That's what you need to know, but I want to know what you think about it. So, let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.